wonderful music for us this morning.
We do.
I'm not sure what they picked after we decided not to do Shower the People. So this will be a
give you
surprise for me too.
That surprise, yeah.
So good morning and welcome to One Heart, One Mind, Center for Spiritual Living. And we are pleased and delighted to welcome Ira and Julia. So take it away.
Yay.
Sometimes I am afraid of change. I want things just to stay the same. Holding on to what has passed feels like we're moving too fast. There's so much to learn from each other. We can only make it together. I'll give you a smile.
I'll give you a smile.
A smile is forgiving. Now is the time for living. A world of peace, war will cease. I can see you are me in disguise. Let me wipe the tears from my eyes. World of peace, war will cease. I can see you are me in disguise. Let me wipe the tears from your eyes. Sometimes I think that there's a way, only one way to play the game. Holding on to the dark of night, trying to hold back the incoming light. There's so much to learn from each other. We can only make it together. We'll give you a smile.
We'll give you a smile.
A smile is forgiving. Now is the time for living. A world of peace, war will cease. I can see you are me in disguise. Let me open up my eyes. A world of peace, war will cease. I can see you are me in disguise. Let me wipe the tears from your eyes. We can only make it together. We can only make it. A world of peace, war will cease. I can see you are me in disguise. Let me open up my eyes. World of peace, war will cease. I can see you are me in disguise. Let me wipe the tears from your eyes. Let me wipe the tears from your eyes. Sometimes I am afraid of change. I want things just to stay the same. But what if peace could come at last? If we chose to forgive the past.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
That was a beautiful way to kick us off this morning. I love the line, a smile is forgiving. That's the line that jumped out at me. Beautiful.
Yeah. Yay. I saw your face. That was very sweet in that moment.
That's great. So this morning, our practitioner of the day is Reverend Maurene Bishop, and she is going to kick us off with a opening prayer. And she sent me a lovely quote, and I'll share that as well.
Well, good morning, everyone. Aloha and hola. from Mexico. So please, if you'd like to join me in consciousness, let's just get comfortable. And if you'd like to shut your eyes, we can just go within and just leave all your concerns outside your front door. Just be right here in this Zoom chat, knowing there is one life, there's one love, one light. It's right here. It's this divine presence that is in each of us, animating each of us, creating life within each of us. And it is the power and the presence and the joy and the love. And I just give great gratitude for all the fellowship that has come here today to celebrate the unity with the one. I give great gratitude for the one, for this life, which is God's life. So I give thanks in advance for the message that Reverend Michelle will be talking to us today about forgiveness. And I give great gratitude for the singing and the uplifting mood and just the energy and the love from everyone. Thank you all. So I release this word knowing it is acted upon as spoken. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. Thank you, God, for this beautiful day too. I know it is so, and together we say, and so it is. Thank you. And we're going to be talking about forgiveness. And I wanted to just quickly tell you, Wikipedia says forgiveness is the intentional and voluntary process by which one who may initially feel victimized undergoes a change in feelings and attitude regarding this offense, like resentment or vengeance or judgment. So that's what we're talking about. And I wanted to, this is from the Science of Mind textbook, where Ernest is quoting about divine forgiveness. And he says from Matthew 18, then Peter came up and said to him, Lord, how often shall my brother sin against me and I forgive him? As many as 7 times? And Jesus said to him, I do not say to you 7 times, but 70 times 7. And it's interesting, the backstory of this was that, and Maurene will get this, but Jesus was a rabbi, and a rabbi by law was supposed to forgive 7 times. So I think Peter thinking, well, maybe he would be like a rabbi, he should ask Jesus if he should do the same. And Jesus says, no, you should 7 times 70. And Ernest says, Jesus clearly explains the meaning of divine forgiveness. He says we should forgive until 70 times 7. This is but another way of saying that forgiveness is eternal and ever available. The mind which condemns understands not the truth of being, and the heart which would shut the door of its bosom to one who is mistaken strangles its own life, closing its eyes to a greater vision. The biggest life is the one that includes the most. Not that we foster vice or place a premium upon wrongdoing, but that we understand the frailties of human nature and learn to overlook much. To him or her who loves much, much is forgiven. So in order to have a greater vision, I think we have to understand forgiveness. Forgiveness opens the door to our heart. So we're going to do a little meditation just for a couple of minutes. And again, I'd like all of you to get comfortable and just close your eyes and put your hand over your heart. Take a deep breath and keep breathing. Don't stop breathing. Just keep breathing and just know with me, like Dennis Merritt Jones says, this resentment or vengeance or judgment that may be hanging out rent-free, it's time to be evicted. So I'd like you to all say, I forgive.
I forgive.
I forgive.
I forgive.
I forgive.
I forgive.
So we'll be silent for two minutes, and I would like you to forgive someone or yourself or some event. So let's go into silence and practice. I forgive. So let's come back into the room. Thank you, God, I forgive. Let's say February's affirmation. Today, I know in the depth of my heart that I am one with God. I feel the presence of the divine glowing within me. I feel its love guiding me forward with ease and grace.
I walk confidently in the light of divine love. I am one with God. God is one with me.
And so it is. Thank you. And back to the Levens.
That was beautiful. We are going to be singing a song of forgiveness that is based on a poetry by Fez.
When the violin can begin to forgive the past, it starts singing. When the violin can begin to stop worrying what the future will bring, it starts laughing. Lean down and comb me into your hair. Let me know, let me know you are there. When the violin can begin to forgive all the wounds that the others are bringing, it starts singing. Yai, lai, yai, lai, lai, yai, lai. Yai, lai, yai, lai, lai, yai, lai. When the violin can begin.
Oh, that was so beautiful. I love the line about combing it through your hair. That was a beautiful line, and it reminded me of the practice of Indian women of weaving jasmine blossoms into their hair at night, and then when they take them out, they walk through their day infused with the smell of jasmine. I think that's a wonderful way to think about the divine in our life, that when we, that it infuses our very being. Beautiful song. Thank you for starting us off with that. I really loved it. Oh, and good morning again. Good morning, everyone. And whether you're here in real time on Zoom or watching on Facebook or watching a replay, welcome to One Heart, One Mind Center for Spiritual Living's online Sunday service. I think I'm going to say that in my sleep for the rest of my life. And this month, we're still exploring our inner life, where everything begins. Science of Mind teaches that everything that exists in the physical world, the world of form and experience, is an effect created by a cause that begins in our inner world, in our inner life, in consciousness. God consciousness and our individualized consciousness, because we're just expressions of that one consciousness. The cause is the thought and the feeling, and the effect is what we experience as a result of the thought and the feeling. And this is true in every aspect of our lives. The principle of cause and effect is spelled out by our founder, Ernest Holmes, in the Declaration of Principles. I'm going to read it to you. And I'm sure you've heard it before if you've been around Science of Mind for any length of time. So he wrote, "We believe that the universal spirit, which is God, operates through a universal mind, which is the law of God, and that we are surrounded by this creative mind, which receives the direct impress of our thought and acts upon it." I like that idea, the direct impress. You can just see thought and feeling pushing into law as it becomes a thing in our life, and it's sort of a wordy way of saying that what we habitually think about and what we habitually feel is what demonstrates in our lives through the action of natural law, the law of cause and effect, or creative law. Easy way to remember it, well, excuse me, what we think about comes about. Where we live, we talked about that last week, where we live. And I began the month by speaking to you about going within into that inner life and experiencing God in a very personal and an intimate way, and how important it is for us to daily nurture this foundational relationship. I used to call it a primary relationship. I haven't called it that in a while, but that is what it is, the first relationship, and it's with our source. And how it is from this strong foundational or primary connection that we begin to glimpse who we really are. We begin to see who we really are. And as we align with the love and the goodness of this inward presence, we begin to understand that we can consciously use the nature of this presence as the cause for every effect that we want to experience in our lives. And this oneness invites us to remember that not only are we one with spirit, but that spirit is all that we are. We're it, all of it. And I also last week spoke to you about practicing awareness, becoming aware of the patterns of thought and feeling that we are currently in, that we're currently using as the cause for what we experience in our lives. And how by acknowledging what is, where we live, we can move into what can be. And I spoke to you about the process of change, becoming aware, releasing the old, rewiring our brains and our bodies to remember a new future so that we can stop living the old pattern of the past. And I spoke to you about embodying a new state of being. And then that is what creates a new life, that we demonstrate in our lives what we truly believe about ourselves and the world, not just what we want to believe or what we say we believe, but what we really believe. So this morning, I'd like to talk to you about the spiritual practice of forgiveness and how forgiveness can be a very powerful spiritual tool to help us create that positive change in our lives. And the traditional way of thinking about forgiveness is that if someone has caused harm or injury to us in some way, that we're called to be the bigger person and to let the other person who has transgressed us off the hook. Like, oh, well, that's okay. I'll suffer along like a martyr. I'm going to be the bigger person. That is not what forgiveness is. In actuality, forgiveness doesn't really have much to do with another person at all. It has everything to do with us. We're the ones who are served by forgiveness. We are the ones who are freed. It doesn't make what happened to us or anything that we got caught in the wave of anything that was unjust or not right. It doesn't make it right. It doesn't take away the pain or the disruption that it caused in our lives, but it does free us, and it draws us into a greater experience of our own power. Remember, we are all that God is. All the power that God is, we are. The power of God is within us. It's right where we are. So we might think of forgiveness as a shift in conscious thought, that moves us out of blame and judgment, moves us out of holding on to our pain and our resentments. We might think of it as a process of softening the heart and seeing through to the divine nature of the one that we feel injured by. We might see forgiveness as a shift into a greater state of compassion and love. And that is definitely a part of the process of forgiveness. That is definitely true of forgiveness. The Course in Miracles calls forgiveness a shift from fear to love. And I believe that's true. But I'd also like to invite us to think of forgiveness in another way. And I've thought about this a lot this week. Because while forgiveness does require a softening of the heart, a release of whatever pain is keeping us in bondage to the past, it also requires a great deal of courage and strength and conviction. It requires an active and alive dedication to the spiritual principles that we hold to be true. So, while forgiveness certainly is a softening into compassion, forgiveness is much stronger and more active than that. It's a powerful way to say that our thoughts and our words and our actions are in alignment with or in integrity with the spiritual principles we believe and that we live our lives by. It's saying that anger and resentment and holding on to the pain we feel doesn't actually stop the injustice, the harm, and the wrongdoing that we felt. It's saying that pushing back in the same manner as what we say we're against can actually make us the perpetrators ourselves. Forgiveness asks us not what we stand against, it asks us what we stand for. We move in to something new. So what if forgiveness, rather than being only a softening of the heart, which it is actually a way of taking, what are those big bolt cutters, and snapping the chains that link us to the pain and the suffering and the resentment of the person or the thing that we believe injured us? What if forgiveness is actually saying that what happened was so not okay with us that we are not willing to be connected to it in any way, energetically or emotionally anymore? Forgiveness is all about stepping into a state of freedom. Cut that chain. Freedom from pain and suffering, freedom from the blame and the resentment. And free people are not controlled by the past. Free people see possibility everywhere. And while others may see limitation, free people see beauty and joy and love and togetherness. Free people laugh and they sing and they create. That's the power of forgiveness. Forgiveness is the strong and capable courage, the courageous act of claiming our birthright as expressions of God. Forgiveness is not for sissies. It's a call to plug into that strong and loving nature of the divine that's within us already. Forgiveness supports us into stepping into our own divine nature. It keeps us in integrity with spiritual principle. Forgiveness serves love. Forgiveness serves compassion, and it serves the greater good. There's a story that illustrates this idea. And as I was writing it out during the week, I realized that I'd shared it before, but it's a great story and it's true. And it really illustrates the strength and the power of forgiveness. So I'm going to share it with you. I'm probably not going to read the whole thing, but the story goes that there was a 14-year-old boy, and he shot another teenage boy to prove himself to a gang. I guess that's a thing. And at the trial, the victim's mother sat very still and quiet through the entire trial until at the end, when the shooter, the young boy who killed her son, was convicted. And as the young boy was leaving the courtroom, the mother of the slain boy looked at the convicted boy in the eye, and she said, "I'm going to kill you." And can you imagine what that did to the poor young boy who had just been convicted? And after he'd been in prison for about a year or so, the mother of the murdered boy went to visit him. And she discovered his story, that before this boy had killed her son, the boy had been living on the street. He had no family at all, and that she was actually the only visitor that he had ever had while he was there in prison. And the story says that he was kind of scared when she showed up, because after all, she said she was going to kill him. So anyway, she told him, "Look, I'm just here. I just want to talk to you." So they visited for a while. And then after that, she started visiting more frequently, every week or so. And just before he turned 18 and he was about to be released from prison, the mother asked him, "What are you going to do when you get out?" And he said he had no idea. And she said, "Well, I have a friend that owns a small factory, and I think I can get you a job there." And then she asked him where he was going to live. And again, he had no idea. And she said that she thought he could come and live with her, because she had her son was not with her anymore, so she had the space. And so he did, and he worked at the factory, lived with her, and about 6 months in, things were going pretty well. And one day she sat him down and she said, "Look, I want to talk to you. Do you remember the day when you were convicted and you were leaving the courtroom? Do you remember what I said to you?" And he said, "I'll never forget it. You said you were going to kill me." And the mother replied, "Well, I did. I didn't want the boy who had murdered my son to live on the earth anymore. And that's why I set about helping you to change. And you're not the same person anymore. That old boy is gone." And then she said that since you're alone and I'm alone, I would like to adopt you. And she did. And he said yes. So the mother, this woman became the mother of her son's killer, and she became the mother that he never had. He never had a family. Forgiveness is not for sissies. This is really a dramatic example and a powerful example, I believe. And it's difficult for me, and it probably is for you, to imagine having this level of forgiveness, to be able to love and nurture and care for someone who did you such harm, who caused such pain and disruption in your own life. But really, when you think about it, this same scenario, it plays out in our lives in small ways every day. When someone cuts us off in traffic, or someone is abrupt with us in a conversation, or when someone stands us up for an appointment, they don't show up. When someone breaks a promise, or we feel betrayed, or when someone is harsh with us in some way, or maybe we're the ones that do something to someone else that we later regret. It takes courage to live in integrity with the values and the beliefs that we hold. Forgiveness takes strength of character to realize that we are the avenue through which God shows up in our lives. It shows up in the world. And to realize that all of the strength and the courage that we need to forgive, the big things and the little things, already exists within us. I was thinking about this, and sometimes, even when we do find the courage to break the bonds that tie us to someone or something that injured us, when we practice forgiveness, we may not get the response that we expect. And then we have to find that courage all over again to stand in our truth and to free ourselves. And I know I told this story too. I'm repeating stories today. I know I told you about the time when I was walking at the park. Every day my husband and I walk our dogs at Kit Carson Park, and it was about 3 years ago. And I was walking alone this time. My husband wasn't with me. And this woman reacted to me in a very harsh and what I thought was mean way. And it really threw me off. And I called her the B word. And then And then I moved on. And then I was so consumed with guilt for having responded and reacted in that way that the next time I saw her, I had to apologize. And I did. I apologized to her, and I expected her to apologize to me, but she didn't. She just started in again. And then I had to come to terms with that. I had to break that chain. And so I just sent love every time I saw her at the park. And it was pretty hard at first because I was really upset about it. You know, my ego was very attached to being right. And I think a part of it was that I had this image of myself that was, you know, the nice person who greeted everyone and got along with everyone. And she kind of blew my cover, you know. And so I had to move through that. I had to go, you know what? You are not responsible for how other people view you. Just be in integrity. Find that strength to come back to your center. So now, you know, when I see her, the funny thing is that once I got over myself, you know, and my need to be right and to hang on to that image I had of myself and let go of all of my expectations, after that, it was fine. You know, she's never apologized, but I don't need her to. And now we say hello and we even chat and it's no big deal. But even in this very small, what would seem minuscule really, incident, I had to find my courage and strength to live in integrity with my beliefs. When I did push back, it didn't feel right. So I had to come back to center and find that place that could live the way I know I want to live, not to push back, you know. That really won't get me where I want to be. That'll just perpetuate the energy of that wrongness. And I want to be free, so I have to let it go. You know, Ernest Holmes, I looked up in Living the Science of Mind, and Ernest Holmes talks a lot about forgiveness in the Science of Mind as well, and in everything he said and do. He talked a lot about forgiveness. And in the Science of Mind, Living the Science of Mind, I wrote down his definition. I'm going to read it to you. It's pretty good. He wrote, just as there is a principle of divine givingness in the universe, so there is a principle of divine forgiveness. He writes, it is self-evident that if such were not the case, we should never be able to transcend the limitation of previous mistakes. It is this ability to transcend previous mistakes, which may be described as forgiveness from the standpoint of a spiritual system of thought. So that's what he's calling forgiveness, our ability to transcend, to move through. He's telling us that forgiveness is a tool for transformation, that if we didn't have divine forgiveness, we'd never be able to move past our mistakes. We'd never be able to move past the idea of our victimhood or that we've been injured in some way. That forgiveness is a natural process that moves us along and enlarges and enhances our life. And if we didn't have forgiveness, we just keep perpetuating the past, which of course, as spiritual beings, we know is not sustainable. So I want to go back because I think this is so important. I want to draw our attention back once again to the importance of having a deep personal connection to our source, because I don't think we can emphasize the importance of this connection enough, because without this strong personal connection to spirit, forgiveness becomes much more difficult. Then we're just dealing with our ego self, like I was with the lady at the park. I wanted to be right. I had this image of me, the nice person. But we in forgiveness we're delving into the divine self. You know, forgiveness is possible because we're one with God and because we know it and because we feel it. And it's this strong foundational relationship with our source where we find the strength and the courage and the conviction to forgive ourselves and to forgive others. There are many, 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 I can't emphasize many enough, different techniques for practicing forgiveness. I'm sure that you have practiced or done some of them. You know, there's radical forgiveness, there's forgive for good, there's Katie Byron's techniques, there's the ancient Hawaiian practice of Ho'oponopono. Jesus taught, Maurene read Jesus's 7 times 70 idea of forgiveness. Every spiritual tradition has some kind of forgiveness practice because it's a universal principle of transformation. And there's always something that we can do to move us into that deeper connection of who we are, which is the strength, the courage, the loving presence of the divine. And all of these practices move us into that sacred center where God lives within us. And here's where we connect with the power and the strength to forgive and to move into that new state of being, you know, that compassionate place where forgiveness just comes naturally. So this week, I want to encourage you to forgive anything that comes your way that makes you feel uncomfortable. You know, just take a minute. If you get ruffled, if something triggers you, just take a minute, close your eyes, pull yourself inward into that inner life that we're talking about all month, and go within and just be there in that strength and that presence. Love is strong. Yes, it's soft, but it is also strong. It holds the planets in their orbit. It organizes the entire universe. It's strong. It harmonizes. It is order. And I use this one little simple affirmation. I think I've shared it with you before, but it was given to me several years ago when I was really struggling with forgiving somebody and I couldn't get over it. And I went into meditation, and the affirmation that I was given was, I forgive myself for making you the object of my discomfort. And isn't that what we're doing when we blame or judge someone else? We are allowing them to have that kind of power over us. It doesn't mean that whatever happened was okay, but it means that we move into what can never be injured, can never be harmed, is always available to us. And it's the strength and the power to say, I am so much more than this. So if you get triggered this week, I forgive myself for making you the object of my discomfort or my unworthiness or my lack or whatever the situation calls for. When we're firmly grounded in our connection to God, forgiveness just comes naturally. Forgiveness is stepping into our natural state of freedom because the nature of life is free. Ernest Holmes tells us that over and over again. Freedom from pain and suffering, the freedom to release the old story that we're carrying around, and to step into the inherent possibility within life, within our oneness with God. Forgiveness frees us to remember a new future, to create a new future, to step into the infinite possibility that is life. So let's take a nice deep breath in and let's do some prayer. I know that all there is God, that God is life, beauty, power, strength, courage. It is soft and compassionate and kind and peaceful. It is all that is. And I know that all of these qualities, all of these potentials of the divine exist right where I am. And if they are right where I am, then they are right where you are, and they are right where all life is. That everything is available to us through our oneness, our inseparableness to the divine. So I speak my word for and about each and every person that is on this call, that there's a shift in consciousness, there's a movement as we step into this idea of forgiveness, of shifting into transformation, learning from the past, getting the good from the past, for the divine makes use of everything for the greater good. It is in service to love. We are in service to love. The shift is in service to love, to peace, to compassion, to the greater and grander good of the whole. So I just accept this shift for all life. I know that it is moving in and through and as everything that is in our human realm and that is also in the divine realm. And I'm so grateful for this. I'm grateful for the ability to know that I am empowered to create a better life, a better world, a greater good, and joy in all things. So I just relax in this gratitude and this knowing that all is well. I breathe in a deep sigh of completion and conviction. I allow it to be. And we signify our agreement together by saying, and so it is. And so it is. Oh, okay. So it is time for our sacred giving. Lisa, you are doing the benediction today, honey. I don't know if you knew. And I'm wondering if you would please lead us in our sacred giving, our time of sacred giving. You're still muted, Lisa.
Always seem to forget. Yes, our sacred time of giving is so important because even though we're small, we're mighty, but we need to support ourselves. And that is a part of the circulation of putting out what you are able to give in order to receive back all of the gifts that are coming your way. And so I urge you to consider that. And I believe, isn't there a slide that comes up that tells people how they can give? Thank you. The easiest way is through Venmo. You just download the app and set it up as the One Heart, One Mind Center, and that's very easy. Or you can send a check by mail to Jim Massapus, and his address is on the chat room.
Yeah. Okay, I'll put up the affirmation. Here we are.
Thank you. Maybe we could say this together. I recognize that all supply flows from the divine givingness of spirit. My gift is a continuation of this divine flow. I give and receive from this infinite supply. I give in faith, in love, and in joy, and it flows back to me in kind. And so it is.
Thank you, Lisa. That was beautiful. And Yvonne is going to do our announcements today.
Yes, and I find it quite exciting to see all the ways that our center offers us to come together and explore our spirituality. And the first thing is Monday evening, we have our prayer group. And we say 6 to 6:30, but we're actually usually finished about 6:20. And I asked Relaine if she would just give us some information about how she feels about it. And so here's Relaine.
Thank you, Yvonne. This is a very special time for us to pray as a group. And as Yvonne said, we meet on Zoom for just 20 minutes. We silently pray together specifically for our One Heart, One Mind Center. And I want to invite anyone who'd like to join us to please come. I find myself looking forward to Monday evenings. And our group prayer has a deep resonance that feels really good and has a cumulative energetic effect as we pray each week for our One Heart, One Mind Center. To me, it feels very exciting to give and be a part of something positive and forward moving and bringing greater good for our beloved center. So I hope to see you there. Thank you.
And thank you, Relaine. for all these things that I'm going to tell you about, you, if you don't have the link, all you have to do is go on your email and you'll find the link. And if you don't get the email has our weekly information on it. If you don't have
E-newsletter, right?
e-newsletter, and if you don't see yourself getting that, then just let the Reverend know and she will handle it.
Yep, I'll put you on our contact list.
So
And sometimes, let me just say, sometimes people call me and say they're not getting it. Sometimes it pops into spam. So if you were getting it and suddenly you're not getting it, look in your spam folder. Sometimes it'll pop in there.
yeah, Tuesday evening is a Zoom meeting from 6 to 7. And this Tuesday, Reverend Michelle asks a question. Where do you live? She doesn't want your address, though. Well, maybe. It's based on Ernest Holmes' essay in Living the Science of Mind, Loose the Consciousness, which is on page 339. And you don't have to read the essay in order to join us for this discussion. And we have had some really wonderful discussions. It's really fun. And it explores what practical tools, Reverend Michelle's going to explore with us what practical tools we can use to expand the good, love, and joy we experience every day in our lives. And then on Friday evening, we have a cocktail party. And you can bring your boozy drink or your unboozy drink because you're going to do it right from your home at 6 o'clock. And it's a really fun check-in with your spiritual family and a fun social event. So we can just let our hair down and have some fun. And then a future event that's coming up, I'm just going to mention this to you so you can put it down on your calendar. Wednesday, March 16th, from 6 to 7:30 will be a presentation by Judy Hirsch titled Master Your Mind, Master Your Life. And it's based on the works of Dr. Joe Dispenza, who is just incredibly interesting. So put that on your calendar so you don't miss it. And that's it, unless someone else has anything.
I think that's pretty it. Does anybody else have anything to add? Did we miss anything? We're good. Morgan.
What date was Judy presenting?
She's presenting on March 16th, which is a Wednesday evening. She's actually a licensed heart math practitioner too. So, I'm sure that'll filter in. But she does a lot of Joe Dispenza's, I think I don't know if she's licensed, but I don't know. But anyway, she seems really interesting. So I think it's going to be great. And so, Lisa, how about our benediction, and then we'll do our closing, and then we can talk.
What about, you have one more music?
Well, why don't you do the benediction first, and then we'll close with the song.
Okay. Sounds good. Okay, if everybody would pull themselves back, please, into that consciousness of the one mind, the one spirit that is where we all live. And know that I am so grateful and happy about the service today in terms of the reminders that occur when we all get together and Reverend Michelle takes a topic and really gives us the truth that will help us heal, will help us become more free and transparent. And so I know that I will go forth this week with that sense of really being willing to release those little petty ruffles of my feathers, shall we say. And also I encourage you to do the same. And to incorporate that phrase, I forgive myself for making you the object of my discomfort. And I can think of several situations where this will be very useful to me, and I'm sure it will be to you as well. And so knowing that you can go within to that divine space and be able to pull the truth from that part of yourself that knows that you will be freer, happier, and more compassionate and more filled with the joy of life as you let go of the past painful injuries and move forward into the freedom of a clear heart, a calm and soft heart, and the compassion that keeps you being that voice for God. And so I release my word into the law. And so we release together by saying, and so it is.
Beautiful, Lisa. Thank you so much. And okay, here we go. More music, Ira and Julia.
Yay. Well, that was absolutely beautiful. The whole of it.
All right, a little something we can sing together. Love, love, love. Love, love, love. Love, love, love. Nothing you can do that can't be done. There's nothing you can sing that can't be sung. Nothing you can say, but you can learn how to play the game. It's easy. There's nothing you can make that can't be made. There's no one you can save that can't be saved. There's nothing you can do, but you can learn how to be in time. It's easy. All you need is love. All you need is love. All you need is love. Love. Love is all you need. Love, love, love. Love, love, love. Love, love, love. There's nothing you can know that isn't known. There's nothing you can see that isn't shown. There's nowhere you can be that isn't where you're meant to be. It's easy. All you need is love. All you need is love. All you need is love. Love. Love is all you need. All you need is love. All you need is love. Everybody. All you need is love. Love. Love is all you need. 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 Love, love, love. Love you. Love, love, love. We love you. Love you. Yeah, yeah. Love you. Love you. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah.
There you go. Yay.
I can
Forgiveness.
just hear the fabulous four behind you singing in chorus.
Oh,
Oh, God, that was great. Thank you so much. I really loved it. Great way to draw our actual service to a close. And would anybody like to share anything? Talk about the talk,